What would financial education in school look like for you? What would you like to have learned?
Well, it was really simple because my poor dad, I finally bugged him enough, I said, well, when am I going to learn about money? He said, why don't you ask your best friends? And that was Mike in the book. Why does Mike's father know about money? My poor dad said, because he's an entrepreneur. I went, what's that? And what are you? He said, I'm an employee. I'm only 9 years old. I'm learning 2 new words, employee and entrepreneur. I went, what? What's the difference, And then my poor dad says, well, an entrepreneur must know about money. An entrepreneur must speak the language. I went, what? And then my poor dad says, I said, what are you? He says, I'm a school teacher. I'm an employee. And what about you? Why don't you have to learn to speak about money? He says, because all I want is a paycheck and a pension, paychecks and pensions. I'm 9 years old. I am totally confused now. I sit down with my rich dad, who never went to school, ironically. He wouldn't teach me about money either. And he kept rejecting me. I didn't realize it was part of the process. He wanted to find out how badly I wanted to learn. And as we all know as entrepreneurs, right, salesmanship begins when the customer says no. And so the more he said no, and so I kept, going back to talk to him, and all he says, get out of here, kid. That was test number 1 from my rich dad. Test number 2 was as if I teach you, you have to work for me for free. And I said, why for free? He says, because if I pay you, you'll think like your dad. The rich don't work for money. So if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, rich don't work for money. And then I'm now all confused as a 9-year-old kid. And so that's when the whole thing started about financial education.
Need motivation?
Watch the Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because as a young entrepreneur, I struggled to keep my business going. I had no friends, I had no mentors, I had no role models. And the thing that saved me was learning from the success stories of famous entrepreneurs. And in their stories, I got motivation, and I also got strategies for what I could do to grow my business and not stay stuck. And I still need their stories for motivation today. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Robert Kiyosaki, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2 is be a great salesman.
For me, I was coming out of the Marine Corps in '74, and I said to my rich dad, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And because my poor dad wanted me to get my PhD, of course, fly for the airlines to get a PhD. I'm going, oh my God, my old man was broke. Poor dad was broke because he ran for lieutenant governor of the state of Hawaii, and dirtiest business there is politics. And the governor said to my dad, poor dad, he says, you'll never work in the state again. And my poor dad went poor. I mean, up until that time, he was okay. But once he could not work, then he couldn't sell. And so I come out of the Marine Corps, and he's telling me, oh, go fly for the airlines. United Airlines is hiring, and go back to school and get your PhD like me. And I said, that's what my saying is, PhD stands for poor, helpless, and desperate. Jesus, I mean, he couldn't sell. So I go to a rich dad, and I go, what should I do? I'll be an entrepreneur. He says, gotta sell. I'm going, oh my God, that's the worst thing possible. This is 1974. And because my old man, poor dad, kept saying, he says, salesman of the scum, da-da-da-da-da-da. And so I said to rich dad, why do I have to sell? He says, how's your sex life? I says, terrible. He says, because you can't sell, So I got a job with Xerox in Honolulu, and I had to go home to my poor dad and apologize. I said, I'm a disappointment to you because I got a job as a salesman. And that's when it started, and it was horrible,
Knocking on doors.
And if you don't sell, you don't eat.
Rule number 3 is invest smart.
Is the Fed doing what it can, in your view, or is there a different way to combat inflation?
Well, I always say it's not what the Fed's going to do, it's what are you going to do? And so I always talk about the 4 Gs that I've been investing in for most of my life. The first G is gold. This is gold, and then this is silver here. And I stay away from the SLVs or the GLDs. I want no counterparty risk. I want the real stiff. The other thing I'm investing is ground. I own apartment houses. I'm glad I'm not in office buildings or commercial real estate. And then gasoline. Gasoline, the greenies hate the thing, but that's how we fly our planes and stuff like this. And then the last one is food. I invest in cattle and food. So I just stay in things that as inflation goes up, gold goes up, real estate goes up, gasoline goes up, and food goes up. So I invest with the inflation, not against it.
Rule number 4 is develop your communication skills.
If you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to study with Chris Voss. I mean, the number one skill of an entrepreneur is communication. You can call it negotiation, you can call it sales, you can call it whatever you want. But as my friend Blair Singer says to me all the time, he says, sales equals income. Do you know? And when I find somebody who can't sell, it's their income is low, or vice versa. But more than that, we interviewed Chris years ago when his first book came out, Never Split the Difference. And I hate to say I didn't read the book, but I will read the book now. I will admit that. And all I remembered from that, which a lot of people remember from Chris, was the midnight DJ, voice and all that. So I was practicing that. It didn't work. But what really worked, Chris, I'm going to surprise Kim on this because, about 3 or 4 years ago, Kim says, I'm out of here. I don't want to be married to you anymore. And I went, ¿Qué pasa? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Then I was listening to you discuss my friend Donald, the Trump, and he's a really good friend of ours. But what you said about him, it just hit me right between the eyes. I was going, holy mackerel, Donald plays win-lose. He has to win. He wins at all cost. And I was going, oh my God. And then this is not your words, but I paraphrase the same, but if you play win-lose, pretty soon people stop playing. And then
that's exactly it.
Yeah, and that's my way of saying with Kim, we're talking before the show came on, I went to military school. I mean, day one, we're screamed at. There was no compassion. Then I joined the Marine Corps, and I learned to adapt to that behavior. Do you know that you talk to everybody like a Marine? So for 35 years, I talked to Kim like a Marine. And one day she said, I've had enough. So when I was listening to one of your podcasts, I went, oh my God. So I want to thank you because what your technology is more than sales, it's more than negotiations. You have the key to world peace. If we could learn to speak with kindness and humanity and support.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is speak the language of money.
Language of money is you know the definition of the word. So, and the good thing about it is you want to be rich, just speak the language of money. Like if I wanted to go to, let's say, Spain, I would learn Spanish. I'm 4th generation Japanese. I want to go to Japan, I learn Japanese. But when you go to a school system, you learn the language of a school teacher. Go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, pay taxes, get out of debt, and buy a house because it's an asset. But all you have to do is learn the words. So my poor dad called his house an asset. Mm-hmm. And my rich dad said, your house is a liability. Again, it's just the power of words and language. So the difference between rich people and poor people are words, and words are free. And when I say that, and it naturally it upsets the school teachers who are mostly, they're not bad people. When I was in 1965, I read the Communist Manifesto by Marx. And as I read, I went to military school in New York. And reading the book, I realized, my God, my family's communist.
Wow.
So they believed in taxes. They believed in, they abolished real estate. Today Klaus Schwab says, you will have nothing and you'll be happy. That's all Communist Manifesto stuff.
Rule number 6 is use debt.
This past week, it seems like the big banks are going to get bigger despite everything the administration really hopes happens here. Can you just talk about whether these trends, when you say it comes back to us and what we're doing, but are some of the things that you or that the others are doing making it worse for the guy who's just trying to get ahead?
Well, I'm a big advocate for financial education. So in the 1970s, when I got out of the Marine Corps, My rich dad had me take two things. I had to learn how to sell because sales equals income. And then I had to learn how to invest in real estate because real estate is debt. So most people say, live debt free. I had to learn to use debt as money. And as you guys know, in 71, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard and the US dollar became debt. So I do almost everything opposite of what the pundits say. I'm not debt free. I use debt as money to acquire real estate, and that minimizes my taxes. That's what I do.
Rule number 7 is take risks.
Marketing and sales are a brilliant thing, and it's a global discipline, right? No matter if you're doing business, no matter where you're doing business, it's a global discipline. You just got to be committed to it, and you can't give up on it. But you have to spend your dollars wisely, and that's most important.
And what Vic is saying, most small business people cut back. They stop spending when they should be spending on marketing and advertising because sales equals income. But they say,
they get scared. They get scared.
So let's leave that as tip number 1. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, just know that bad times are the best times sometimes to start a business. I've only started in bad times because everything else is going to shut down and lots of opportunity when things are slow. But what happens is, like many small business people, they cut back on the spending on marketing and advertising, or they market and advertise to the wrong customer.
Rule number 8 is make no excuses.
If you're just starting out and you're right here, you may not have much money, may not have a job and all this, but that's really not an excuse because you can still start. And I would suggest, getting Kenny's ABCs of real estate, looking at programs, because we're going to go into, let's start out how I started. It was, the reason I got into real estate was that my rich dad, this is back in the 70s, he knew that President Nixon had taken the dollar off of the gold standard and the prices were starting to rise. And so Rich Dad said one thing, he says, don't save money, learn how to use debt. And so it's counterintuitive to what most people think, because most financial advisors say save money and get out of debt. And we're saying don't save money, get into debt. So it's a different process, so that's really it. The reason I invest with Kenny is because we're into debt. You see, the beauty of real estate over stocks, there's margins and things like that with stocks, but with real estate, banks are really anxious to lend you money if you're good. If you're not good, they don't lend you money. So again, it goes back to when somebody says, I don't have money, it's because you don't have education. Stuff like this and this and this. You go, well, I don't have money, so I don't start. Well, you're not supposed to use your own money anyway. And that was my rich dad's lesson to me back in the 70s. He says, look, the dollar is no longer backed by gold. The dollar is now backed by debt, U.S. Treasuries. And he says, if you're going to be rich, you'd better understand how to use debt. Meanwhile, the other people, all the financial people, save, and put your money in the mutual funds.
Rule number 9 is lower your taxes legally.
The postmodernist communists, the Marxists in our academic system, they speak in these platitudes like equality, this, that, and it's as non-specific as possible. But as a capitalist, I must speak in facts, figures, and the history. But they want to change history, the 1619 Project or whatever that is. And the real fact is, America, and then, you got to pay taxes. Well, Marx said graduated income tax is essential for the spread of communism. And so my father, poor dad, he believed in paying taxes. My rich dad didn't. Again, the word is taxes. Mm-hmm. And so when you look at what Biden's doing right now, he just put in 87,000 IRS agents who are armed. The reason is they're going after you, small business. They're going after the small entrepreneur. They can't touch me, because I'm not that stupid to pay taxes. And I can do it legally. But that's why I make fun of my friends Peter Schiff and Mark Moss. They were living in Puerto Rico. I said, if you were a real estate guy, you wouldn't live in Puerto Rico. You could live anywhere you want, not pay taxes,
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is prepare for the worst.
Be careful for those who are not paying attention. In other words, we're about to go into what's called the Wile E. Coyote moment. Everybody's running along and says, oh, don't worry, the Fed's got my back. The economy is fine. I love this guy Biden, and America's the greatest and the economy is safe. And when people crash, when this thing crashes, and it's coming soon, It's the people that are not prepared. The people who are not watching this emergency podcast number 3, haven't watched number 2 or number 1, are the ones you're going to have to be afraid of. Be very, very afraid of those who are sound asleep at this moment, because when they wake up, they're going to wonder what happened. So I'll just tell you a quick story. I went to flight school, to fly these things in Vietnam, and they wanted to prepare us for the worst. So how did they prepare you for the worst? Well, they make it the worst. So what they did is they take us out into the Gulf of Mexico off of Pensacola Beach. They simulate a parachute crashing into the ocean. So it's freezing weather. I think the temperature was -3 degrees or something. We hang out the back. We drop into the water. We got to unhook. Then we paddle ashore, our little rubber ducks. There's like 7 of us in a group. And we go ashore into the swamps of Florida. And our job is to survive. So it's a simulate crashing in Vietnam or the jungles. And then we had to figure out how to survive. So everything is like a little Boy Scout camp. The first day, everybody's happy. We're chugging along. This is easy. This is easy. Day 2 gets a little bit more serious. Then day 3, we're hungry. And this is what I'm talking about. It took us till day 3 to turn into animals. We went primal. I was ready to kill the guy next to me. We're starving to death. We're hungry. These guys are chasing us with guns, blanks, of course, but we're running. I'm eating palmetto. I mean, just ripping palms apart, trying to get a little piece of nourishment, starving to death. We finally shot a raccoon, and there was 7 men, 25-year-old men, and 1 little raccoon. And pretty soon we were growling. We were just like a bunch of wolves. And the side of me came out of me that terrified me. It's what happens when you go primal after day 3. This here is book number 2 in the Rich Dad series. It's called the Cash Flow Quadrant. So E stands for employee. So you go to school, they tell you go to school, get a job. But if you're really smart like Tom, you become, S stands for super smart. You become accountants, attorneys, and doctors. So Tom, who pays the most taxes of these characters here?
Oh, definitely the S, definitely the super smart. The more degrees you have, the more tax you pay.
Thank God most of your friends, Tom, are like me, C students. we didn't qualify for this one here.
That's for sure.
You educate all of us that as a general rule, and this is worldwide too, this is not just US.
Right.
And so Tom and I have traveled the world, and employees pay about 40% in taxes.
That's right.
Anything to say about that? I mean, that's worldwide.
That's a pretty standard rate worldwide. It's going to be anywhere from 30 to 50%, but on average 40%. If you make any kind of decent wage, you're going to be up in that 40% range.
Correct. And if you're a doctor, lawyer, self-employed, or like somebody says, I'm going to quit my job and start my own business, you become a small business owner or a specialist. I'm going to be a web designer. How much do these guys pay in taxes here?
Well, they can get all the way up to 60% in tax because they're paying not just the employee share, they're paying the employer's share as well. So they pay 2 taxes, employer and employee.
So that's what happens when people quit their job and start their own business without talking to Tom first. Okay, so big, B stands for big business, which is, according to the tax code, 500 employees. But B also stands for brand. Right. And most people don't build a brand here. So big business, like the big corporations, how much do they pay?
Typically around 20%.
20%. And again, what Tom instructs people and advises people, it's because we're doing what the government wants done. So why would the government give a tax break to big business?
Well, because that's where the jobs are, right? So one of the government's primary goals is to create jobs and employment. And so the big business doesn't pay the taxes. In the B quadrant, it's the E people who work for the big business who pay the taxes.
Right. The government needs people to hire these people here.
Correct.
And so if you hire a lot of people, they'll give you a tax break for that. And then I stands for investor, but it's an inside investor. In other words, over here, lots of people invest, but they invest in a 401k or an IRA. They invest in public market, like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, which I don't have any of those things. I don't want them. But over here as an insider or investor, how much do they pay?
Well, they're the ones who get down to zero and pay zero tax.
So if you enjoy being over here, you can tune out right now. Interesting thing is these guys here can do this.
They can.
If they have a good attorney also, right?
Right.
So that's why I have Garrett Sutton, and he's our attorney. But you have to act like these people. You can't act like these people. If you're poor right now, it was called look in the mirror. That's what my rich dad always said to me. He says, if you're looking in the mirror right now and you see a loser, that's what you are. You can't make money in this economy. You better change your thinking. Hindsight is 20/20, as I say.
Yes.
If you're looking at, you don't have any money, you don't have a job, your boyfriend or girlfriend has left you, and sitting there goes, well, how did I get here? How did I get here? There was a great book called, Gulag Archipelago by Solzhenitsyn. So he gets thrown in a concentration camp or a gulag in Siberia, and he says, "How did I get here?" You know how he got there? Because he was a peacetime leader. Didn't fight back. So people are being sold to go to school, get a job, pay taxes, save money, get out of debt, buy a house. The house is an asset, and invest for the long term in a well-defined portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. And I do none of that. So everything is coming down. I hate to be Chicken Little and bearer of bad news, but that's why on my tweet, I was begging people, you got to change your thinking. Get rid of that mantra, go to school, get a job, work hard, buy stocks and bonds, save cash. 3 times, Andy Schectman, the smartest guy I know, a 3 times crash is coming. First of all paper assets. Second, real estate. Third, cash is trash. I hope I'm wrong. Our debt to GDP, in 2008 wasn't that bad. And then when it crashed, then Bernanke started printing, they call it quantitative easing. It's printing money. And so that's why in 2013, I wrote the book, Rich Dad's Prophecy, to warn people that the crash was going to get bigger. In 2013, I wrote that book, and it's going to get bigger because the debt to GDP, David, as most people know, is 130 debt to GDP. It's the biggest in world history. Our debt is through the roof, and Powell is raising interest rates, which makes that debt more expensive.
What are things that you're thinking about? Because with every downside, there's an upside. It's like the way I think about it, it's a zero-sum economy. Money never leaves the ecosystem. It just moves and changes hands. So where's the power going? Where's the money going?
This here is a 1964 silver dollar. It's real silver. What happened in 1964, I think it was Johnson, one of those guys, he took the silver out of this coin. So this silver dollar today is worth $10. And I tell the story of going into Safeway at the salad bar, and these women were asking me the same question, what should I invest in? And I said, well, give me $10 for this. They go, it's $50. Why would I give you $10 for this? I said, because this could be the best investment of all. I've been collecting silver since I was 17 years old. I own silver mines and I own gold mines. So when the dollar goes down, gold and silver go up.
When you're putting your team together, what are some things you look for as a team? And what does it take to build a stronger bond with your team?
It takes time.
Okay.
That's all. Because, people, when it comes to money, people lie. So it takes time to build that trust. Can you trust this guy under fire? That's why I love the Marine Corps. You know, we may not have liked each other, but we went into battle, we're all Marines. I could trust.
So it takes some time to put a team together.
Yeah, and a lot of flakes out there too. So like a couple of my partners, we're 40 years together.
40 years together.
We know each other like brothers. It's the most important thing is trust, confidence, loyalty, integrity, diligence, cover my back.
I invest with Kenny McElroy in real estate. So let's say he buys a building for $1 million to keep the numbers simple. He increases the rent so that he refinances the building at $2 million. So we have $1 million in debt. He borrows out another $1 million. We now have $2 million in debt. And he and I get the $1 million extra. How much in tax do we pay for that extra $1 million?
Zero.
And who pays the debt?
The tenants.
The tenants. Rich Dad's World teaches capitalism. So I'll read you something because this comes from this book here, The Capitalist Manifesto. Because years ago, 1965, I read this book here, The Communist Manifesto by Marx. And Marx was just like my poor dad, an academic. And the trouble with academics is they're poor. They have no idea how capitalism works. So stay tuned at the end of this program to find out how capitalism works. So once you understood this, I understood my rich dad, why he did things the way he did. And my poor dad hated my rich dad. My rich dad's my best friend's father. And rich dad had all these houses and he paid no taxes and he owned hotels. He was playing Monopoly and rich dad paid no taxes. And my poor dad, being a communist but didn't know it, he hated the rich. And that's what Marx did. Marx hated the rich. But I want to read you a quote from Marx. So all of you who believe that paying taxes is patriotic, this comes from this book here, The Capitalist Manifesto. And this book here, The Communist Manifesto, it says here, a heavy or progressive or graduated income tax is necessary for the proper development of communism. Let me read it again to you. This is Marx's words. If you want to verify, just read this book here, okay? It says, a heavy or progressive or graduated income tax is necessary for the proper development of communism. And that's what's happening in America. So if you want to be a communist, you stay on this side here. You want to be a capitalist, you come to this side here. And again, Rich Dad's World offers you opportunities to understand this side, not this side here. So anyway, that's why Tom is one of my go-to guys, because the less tax I pay, the more capitalistic I become.
That's right.
The freer I become. Let me give some dates. But in 1974 was the deal was cut that the world would have to buy oil in U.S. dollars.
Correct.
And that's what Andy's talking about is they're all saying right now, adios dollars. And Andy's saying 60% today of the world's population will stop using the U.S. dollar. And that's what gives us power. So those of you who are saving those fake dollars, you're in serious trouble right now. And that's why what Andy says, and Kim will back me up, for all these years, we don't save dollars. We save gold coins and silver coins stored someplace else, because that is the challenge with gold and silver, is the storage. So I want you to understand this. This goes back to what they always say at school: go to school, get a good job, work hard, pay taxes, and save money and invest in the stock market. And that's what we're talking about now. That dollar gave it the power to the stock market to go through the roof. And when they talk about the bubble, the 3 times bubble, it's stocks, paper assets, real estate, and the dollar is going to crash. So all you out there, savers out there, I would pay attention right now. Because if you still think, you're still believing in the power of the dollar, you're in serious trouble. Don't teach pigs to sing. Waste your time. It annoys the pig. If you're talking to pigs at home, don't teach them to sing because it's waste your time. They still believe in going to school, getting a job, saving money, paying taxes, getting out of debt, and investing in a 401k or an IRA. They're going to be the biggest losers today. I mean, they've already started to lose if you look at the stock market. And they're going to try and curb inflation. But as you know, they're raising interest rates, which is not going to solve it. It's going to make it worse. So if you really want a real education, you can go back to college, get in student loan debt, and wonder what happened to your life because you're still saving money and investing in a 401k. I mean, that's the most stupid thing you can do right now.
In Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I said savers are losers. And guess what? They are. You know, today, it's coming soon. We're going to have negative interest rates. I don't know how they can do that. But if you deposit $100 in the bank, when I was a kid, I got 15% interest. So I put $100 in the bank, and a year later, I got $115. Today, you put $100 in the bank, and you got to pay the bank $15. and they're printing it. So the value of the dollar is going down, but the price of keeping the bank keeps going up. They charge you to keep your money in the bank. Tell me, why would you save money? So that's why way back when, 25 years ago, the savers are losers. I also said your house is not an asset. And then in 2008, the market crashed. Well, it's going to crash again because everybody's going into real estate right now. Now, the good news is that the people are moving out of the big cities like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and they're moving into smaller towns. Well, what that does in the smaller towns, it drives the price of real estate up. So again, it pushes out the lower. You know, if you live in Podunk, a little dinky town, you don't make as much money as the guys moving in from Chicago. And I owned a piece of property up in northern Arizona, and my friends in real estate there are just laughing. They say, "Oh, these guys from California come in. You know, a house I bought for $100,000, they're paying me $400,000 for." So they're all happy. Well, for the Californian, they sold a $4 million house so they can afford a $400,000 property. So this market is all convoluted, going all over the place and all this. People are excited. Kim just sold her mom's house in Hilton Head, South Carolina. These people came out of New Jersey, and there was a bidding war for the house. So there's all kinds of things going on in real estate today, but it'll eventually crash simply because the government is making it so expensive to build a house. So one of the reasons my niche market with Kenny McElroy in real estate, we only buy existing property because it costs too much to do. You know, the permits and fees and all that, it costs so much to develop a piece of property. So once again, the millennials get screwed because the price of property gets more expensive, but you get less house. You know, I'm going, this is so screwed up. But that's what happens when the government steps in and they kick capitalists out and then the socialists kick in. But anyway, that's why savers are losers today.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Alex Hormozi, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
And what happens is we learn these identities that come with these sets of beliefs. You see this a little bit in the political scene. If you're a Republican, all of a sudden you have to wear flannel and trucker hats, America, and shoot guns. And on the flip side, if you're a liberal, you have to just say,